Welcome to the Only Dream Big podcast, starring your host, Donnie Bedney. Only Dream Big is a podcast where Donnie will share tips and experiences on different topics, such as acquisition entrepreneurship, human capital, and the future of the workforce. He is the president of PSP Metrics and has been in the assessment and human capital management industry for more than 15 years, with the goal of driving change through people. As your guide on dreaming big, let's hear from the man himself.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Only Dream Big pod. I am your host, Donnie Bedney, and back again with you. Super excited for my guest today, Kameale and Evette. Welcome to the pod.
Hey. Thank
you. So, as we were talking about a little bit in kind of our pre-brief, I've just been really excited to have both of you on. And not only do I consider you all pioneers for, kind of everything that you're building, but you are a pioneer, at least for, this platform and show where you are the first folks to come on at the same time. And so literally, we've had a couple of partners that, just from a time perspective, haven't been able to get on with their co-founder or partner in things. So I'm just excited to have both of you on, today. Let's hop right in. Obviously, I have huge admiration for what you all are building, as an organization. But, do you mind kind of taking us back, right? And the answer may be different for both of you. But did you always, or at what point in your life did it really hit you that maybe you were going to found a company at some point, or did you have other aspirations in your life?
Evette, you go first. I always go first. I like your jacket, by the way. I haven't seen her all day. It was nice.
Good to meet you here there. No, I never thought I would be a founder. It was not in my list of things to do. However, it was, I would say, a good 6 months after I agreed to be a co-founder that I was like, oh no, I really think we're gonna do this, right? So everything shifted. I was a little on the late train, and I only saw like workforce development, right? I was very tunnel. And once I saw the potential in the whole thing and like really start to understand what it means to really start a company, right?
Sure.
Definitely I always give it to Kameale. She definitely had the foresight and definitely was follow the leader for the first 6 months. And then, really just understanding my weight in this and what I could really contribute to making this happen. I would say 6 months after Chargerhelp started that I really got a grip, like, oh no, it's not a thing. This a thing. This a big thing, right?
Yeah. Okay. Kameale.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I tell folk all the time, my dad was an entrepreneur. And so I saw firsthand what it meant to like own a business. And like, typically, at least back then when my dad started his company, like things would be really good, or they would be like pretty horrible. And so I like stability. So never in my entire life, I was like, oh, I'm about to go do this real unstable thing. So no, I did not think I was going to be a founder. However, and this actually might be true for you too, E, is that over time of being in spaces, I did see that, I could probably do this a little bit differently. Or like this could probably have been done, in a more equitable way and, still make. I definitely remember, having those instances. And so I think that definitely played into, once we got into it, I was like, oh yeah, we can do this.
Oh yeah, I think the idea that we can do it was immediate. I think, Kameale came from an entrepreneur background. She had saw it, so she had much more grit in the area and just kind of a direction. Me, I definitely came from, Kameale said she liked the stability. I came from a very stable place. So I was taught to get your paycheck, pay your bills, get to, work for the county, the state, those were the things that I was kind of raised around, get benefits. So the whole entrepreneur, like, just get out there and see where it takes you, like, no. So yeah, I do think we had the things, but to see it in a space of entrepreneurship is a different lens.
Okay. I mean, that's so powerful, and I think, just from the outside in, appears to be one of the amazing things about you all's partnership, and probably how you guys connect a little bit more. I'd love to dive into, if you guys can unpack for us a little bit. I'll rephrase kind of what you just referenced, right? But I think a lot of folks find some sort of security or perceived comfort and perceived security, by being a part of, a corporation, or, that, as you referenced, right? Like, probably our parents, grandparents, were looking for those pension, type opportunities, right? And so, can you talk about, some of the benefits, funny enough, that you've seen outside of that comfort zone, right? Because I think that folks, it's a little challenging at times while you're in it to necessarily see some of those, but we're all about sharing kind of practical and pragmatic things. And so, can you talk about some of the benefits, and maybe even your journey for how you, or lessons learned, so maybe different perceptions now that you're kind of outside of that box or bubble, and what you've seen, like what is reality versus perception?
Yeah, I think the reality is that we have built businesses. They just weren't ours. We definitely have built businesses, programs, systems. Kameale and I have done that 100 times over. It wasn't ours. So I think the thing was like learning to bet on yourself, leveraging our expertise by calling it what it was, not a skill set, not, learning the language of workforce that really adds meat and value to who you are as a professional, whether it's an entrepreneur or working for somewhere, right? Really learning how to frame yourself and your skill set to expertise, to really, we had mastered things and we were doing it for the company. So I just think, shifting your over to do it for yourself, right? And figuring out, of course, the resources, the financing, all that stuff. But really, we were doing what we had been doing for other companies. So I think coming from a more traditional background, it's not so much do you trust yourself, all that good stuff. It's more about money, right? Resources. While Kameale decided to really commit to Chargerhelp a different way when we started, for me, I needed to know where the paycheck was coming from, because my particular situation would not allow a space, and so founders are in different places. Some founders are in spaces where they could have the space to really build, right? Or at least 3 months to get it going. And then some folks have to balance both because of security. So it's not just security in who you are, it's money. It's actual money and figuring out where you're going to get paid. And I think that's what our grandparents and parents, that's what they were concerned about. Less about if you have the things, right? More about how to pay your bills. And sometimes in the entrepreneurial world, we get away from those hard facts, right? That you have to live while you're building a business.
No doubt. Kameale?
I'm just like, ditto. I mean, she said it all. I don't have anything else to add.
Okay. No, and look, man, we love talking about, the real stuff, right? That was that's going to be a reel already. That dropping gems. We appreciate that. And I think that's a real thing, right? Now, I've said this on the show before, but would be curious if you all are experiencing this same thing, right? So, in a funny way, Evette, building on one of the things that you just said, when I think about the expertise that I've built in my career, I describe myself as an individual who has helped organizations drive change through people, right? And I believe that I have a very unique, background and kind of amalgamation of, doing that in various and sundry ways. But it, in a funny way, people appears to be a missing link, for a lot of opportunities these days, right? And so, one of the things that a number of folks kind of in the investment community have told me, and I've repeated it here because I think it's important for us to shed light on it, is that there is no shortage of opportunity. There is no shortage of capital. The biggest gap is people. People with an idea, talented people who are willing to bet on themselves, etc. There is so much dry powder, for talented people to find ways to build, especially when you're looking to solve problems, not only for, the community, but frankly, the world. And so is that something that, kind of resonates with you all? Some of your experience and frankly, that once again, just kind of building on what you just shared, if we're willing to truly embrace the expertise that we have, I've found that there's no shortage of opportunity and no shortage of capital to put behind those things when we're willing to embrace that. Don't know if you have some immediate, feedback on that.
That's really, Kameale really, drove the company with that idea. So I'll hand it over to Kameale, but the idea that it's people out here, like this is what the basis of the company was. Kameale?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's actually interesting. I just came off of my leadership coach meeting, and we have positions that we need to open up. And Evette and I, when we first went out, it was that ideal, right? It was this ideal that there are so many folks that are talented that maybe have not been given the opportunity to participate. But I will say that, I do think that some of those ideals that I had are definitely shifting now, that they are more nuanced, because sometimes just giving someone the opportunity isn't enough. And sometimes, well, not even sometimes, because of how we've built businesses in the past and how someone needs to be now supported, we don't have the skill sets or the tools for that. Like, we're still figuring it out. So much of like what I thought before is like, for instance, like myself and like the Evette recruits across the US, builds massive pipelines, created a very impressive system for recruiting and finding the right talent. Never done that before. But not because she can't, just no one never gave her the opportunity to do that. I told Evette that this is what happens when you have CEOs that meet with one another. I met another CEO in New York, we're like chopping it up and we're like, we should train all these people in New York. And you know what? We should do it in 2 months. And so we have co-founders who run our internal. So we both go back. I'm like, okay, we need to train 200 people, in New York. And like, it's gonna get paid for, and like, I need it to happen, like, by this. And she's just looking at me, and then, but then it happens, right? And so I say all that. It's like, that's a very special type of person. And before I would have just thought like, everybody just needs opportunity, like, but that's not true, because now I also have another person that I'm like, I need to accomplish this crazy goal in this amount of time, and they wouldn't know where to start. But so I guess what I'll sum it up as is just like, I don't think that we've taken enough time to really figure out how to cultivate the talent of people. And I think that we sometimes say because it's harder, because we haven't figured it out, that we shouldn't do it. But from my experience is that when you do take the time to figure out what is it exactly this person needs to be successful, I think the outcome, definitely goes far past than what you had to put in for it. I think that is worth it, right? I honestly think that is worth it. I just don't think that it's easy.
I think it's necessary as well.
That's
right. It's necessary if we want all, we kind of create sometimes over here, not to see the DEI working in our companies, but when we just hear it, right? But to make those things true, we have to do it differently. The old way, the regular way we do things don't work. Clearly, we don't have equity. Clearly, diversity is not present, right? Inclusion is not in every system and every company. So we have to do things different. in order to get this new workforce that really is inclusive, right? So we really don't have a choice. And that's what we have to get employers and companies to understand, is as hard as it is and as difficult as it is, we really don't have a choice but to do things different, but to try out different workforce models. We have to, in order to hit that goal.
Yeah. And you know, I also want to be cognizant, because it, you know, for anyone who is just kind of joining us, you know, Evette and Kameale have just an amazing company, Chargerhelp. If we can just shout out the company, because I know we didn't get the time to kind of, you know, go through a full, you know, kind of breakdown of what you all are building and what you're doing. But I those things that you just shared kind of resonate with me, and Evette, just kind of building on what you just, I think the cherry on top of what Kameale just shared, you know, the fact that it's necessary, right? And so, you know, for any of us who, you know, any of those who are listening to us, you know, understand that, you know, some of the visions and ideas that you have, while they may be difficult, or maybe someone has not done them in the way that you are thinking about doing them, I think it's so powerful that it's necessary, where once again, the world is waiting on you to come and bring your perspective, to attempt to do those hard things. And that's the only way that we will truly see change. And maybe, you know, we can go into for a little bit. Can you all speak about, you know, just the power of intentionality, right? Because I think that, you know, as you think about DEI, right? I just had a conversation at dinner last week, funny enough, where, you know, I was speaking to some folks about who have desires to, you know, be at least more diverse. I can't say, you know, more equitable or inclusive. You know, but I had a head of HR tell me back in college. She said, "Hey, look, Donnie, when I'm going to recruit, you know, the top Black attorneys, you know, I go to Howard, not Harvard, right? Because literally, I know when I go there, I'm going to find these people." And it's just it was kind of an aha for me to say, you know, man, it's amazing how folks aren't, because they're not coming from that perspective, right? And you all have a very unique background and perspective, which I think adds to the richness of what you're building. Can you just speak about how intentional you all have been, even in how you're building your organization, and then articulating that value in spaces where folks don't necessarily come from, you know, your background, and therefore don't have your worldview?
I think for us, we talk about it often, that what we do is good business. I hire locally because if I have to charge my customer 5 hours for them to drive in, or I have to charge my customer for an air flight for somebody to do 30 minutes on site, I'm not going to get that much work. And it's also like practices of like saving greenhouse gas emissions. So I hire locally because like it makes the most logical sense, right? When I think about us and our equitable wage, I pay a minimum of $30 an hour because I don't want my technicians having a second job because they can't afford to live off of the full-time work that they have, and that they're stressed out about bills. When you're a customer-facing person, I need you to be as happy as you can be, at least with the company and what I'm paying you, right? And so I say, and then even with equity, like we allow for our technicians to have equity in the company, because at the end of the day, if they don't do their jobs, Chargerhelp doesn't exist. So I need them to be as bought in as I am bought into them working for Chargerhelp. And I say those three things to really point to that as a company, you have to make a decision that it's good business for you to function in a certain type of way. If you that DEI is just a nice to have or something to have because you want to not be dragged through the mud when somebody does something weird, then to me, like you're not really truly seeing the purpose of with everything, right? And it goes back to what I said before, is that we function in these ways truly even as a necessity. Because here's the thing, if I don't pay workers well and they have to go on government assistance, so that's still impacting society, right? If I don't my workers well and they have to like do other things in order to make ends meet, I'm still going to pay for that. Or if they quit my job at a resounding rate, that cost doesn't dissipate. You know, it's not being my upfront hourly wage, but that cost is going to come somewhere and it's still going to impact me. So I really try to look at things holistically and say, what is the best business decision for the company? And that's to ensure my workers like working at my company and that they produce a quality product that I can continue to have good business.
Yeah.
Strong.
I think much like every comment with this is a running thing, Kameale like brings it in. And I can just give you a real world example. We are a tech company, right? And at every other tech company, nothing we're doing is brand new. It's just we built it with a lens of equity, right? We made sure that a diverse population of folks knew the opportunity existed. But really, a well-paying job, that's a tech company, right? Benefits, equity, that's a tech company. It's just so brand new because of the people that this is now being exposed to and offered that makes it a big deal. But really, this is not new for certain communities of folks, whether it's the educated folks, whether you talk about, you know, racial makeup, socioeconomic, this is not new for everyone. This is very common to get a well-paid job, right? Not be overworked, give benefits and equity to a company. It is new because we are saying that people of color, our LGBTQ plus, our diversity in communities now have access to this is what makes it a big deal, which lets us know that our workforce has some holes in it in the way business is done. Good business is only done with certain communities. It's good business, period. We have good people, we do good business, and we give good service. I mean, it's not rocket science to Kameale and I. It's just not rocket science because she's been in those environments. She's worked for tech companies. So she has a clear understanding. She's been in banking. I've been in workforce development. So we have the extremes of how people are treated and what is necessary based on, unfortunately, racial makeup, you know, background, where you were raised, all that good stuff.
Yeah. Well, I wish we had more time that we could spend together because I mean, this is so rich. So hopefully if we can arrange calendars, would love you all coming back and sharing some more nuggets, because just in the short time we've spent together, you guys have been dropping dimes, like just over and over, jewels and jewels and jewels. You know, would you mind closing out, you know, number one, you know, just as you think about, you know, any final pieces that you want to share with folks as you think about, you know, our sub theme, which is driving change through people. And that really has been everything that you all shared. I think it's flown perfectly through, but just the importance of, you know, being able to drive change through people, both outside of your company, frankly, and also internally. Evette, we'll start with you because I think Kameale kind of touched on some of that as she was speaking previously.
Yeah, I just think the only way to really see it, and that, you know, we talk about at Chargerhelp, not just creating pipelines of folks, but actually hiring people, right? That's the difference between driving change, like, right? You actually drive it and then it changes. It needs to actually turn over to something. And the only way we see that is by adding new jobs. Is the only other way is by paying people equitably, right? Making sure people are getting the right benefits, making sure we don't repeat history. And that comes with purpose, and that comes with strategic planning, and it has to flow from the top down. If it's real to the company, it has to be real to the founders, to the CEOs, to the decision makers. The onus is there if we want to see real change driven through people. People have to actually make the decision.
No doubt. Anything to add to that, Kameale?
The only thing that I add is just for folks to know that it's like, it's hard. Like, I think like sometimes people just think that you could just, there's a silver bullet to this stuff and that it'll just happen. But like these things involve processes and logistics and really problem solving. And it's not easy, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not worth it. You just have to be okay with putting in the work. But to Evette, what she said earlier, yeah, she's right. The stuff is necessary because at some point you can only have a very little workforce until at some point you're gonna be like, well, there's all these other people that we should probably employ. So at some point you don't have to figure it out. So why not figure it out now? But yeah, thanks for having me.
No, man, I love it. Where can folks find you? Because we'll definitely leave some links in the show notes and stuff. But where can folks find you?
Yeah, Chargerhelp on all platforms.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, appreciate you all. Thank you so much for being our guests. For everybody else, this has been the Only Dream Big show. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Yeah.